we grew up so tight-knit with our family in the Hmong community. It's just so hard to just be around others that are not Hmong. And I know that, it's so uncomfortable being in treatment, being the only Hmong person, but I had to get it done. I never thought about going to recovery. I would never even knew that there was recovery.
Really?
Yeah, I just know that there's hospital for crazy people. I didn't know that there was treatment for, drug and alcohol use.
Right. Thank you for viewing our podcast today. I'm Barry with Pillars and Beams, where we are going with our guests to understand their lived experiences and how that their lived experiences could help make your life a little bit easier. And today we have Xianna MouaYang. Yeah, did I say that right?
Yep, Xianna MouaYang.
MouaYang, Thank you. Can you help me understand how that works on your last name?
Oh, my last name? I took my husband's last name. So he's a Mua and I'm a Yang, so I just kind of put it together.
Right. And you are a co-founder with your husband and sister-in-law for Koom Recovery. And if you can help us understand what it does and why you're doing it.
Yeah. So Koom Recovery is, it's like a resource hub for recovery for the Hmong community. And I believe how we started was because when I was in treatment and I started seeking for Hmong support groups, I didn't see any. So it was just kind of like odd because there's recovery community, support group, AA, NA, all over Minnesota, especially Hennepin County. But there was none that was Hmong culturally specific. So, I just started working and I kind of put that at the back of my mind. My recovery, I kind of forgot about it. So I had like a 10-year sobriety. And because we didn't have that community, I just went to work and continued to live what I thought was normal. And, I had a reuse because in my culture, there's a lot of alcohol drinking. And it's drank at every celebration. I mean, even baby showers. A lot of it is at spiritual gatherings and weddings. And, I fell back into drinking because everybody does that. And with my addictive behavior, I didn't realize that it was going to lead me back to my use. And when I got back into my use, I knew all the tools.
Yeah. What were you using?
Methamphetamine.
Oh, boy.
Yes. So I knew all the tools to get sober. I just didn't really know how. And, when I finally did, move myself out of that circle, and I met my husband, and he was in recovery, and I was like, yes, he can help me because, I just want to get back into recovery.
Right.
And he helped me get back into recovery. And I realized that, hey, there's something missing, but I just don't know what. And when my husband went to work at A1X after his graduation from Teen Challenge.
What is A1X?
It's a company that does like assembly. I'm not sure what it does, but I know that he wasn't very happy. He wanted to do something more meaningful. So I agree with him that he can go back to school and he can do something different, which he did. He went to, I think he went to AmeriCorps, applied, and then he started, intern at Teen Challenge, and then went to work at Minnesota Recovery Connection. So he comes home and shares with me all these things, like about, what the organization does and about recovery community organization. So it sparked something in me. And I remember when I got into my first recovery, I wanted to find a recovery community with Hmong people.
Yes.
Because we grew up so tight-knit with our family in the Hmong community that it's just so hard to just be around others that are not Hmong. And I know that, it's so uncomfortable being in treatment, being the only Hmong person, but I had to get it done. And it's just trying to find that community outside of treatment. So I kind of came up with this idea, and I said, why don't we try to come up with a hub where Hmong people can come to, where they can find resource and they can find treatment. So we kind of just started planning, and that's kind of how Koom Recovery started.
Okay, great. And when was that?
That was the beginning of last year. Wow. And then in November, we got approved.
Great, fantastic. So that you got your 501c3?
Yeah.
and became a RCO, Recovery
Well,
Community
we
Organization.
became a nonprofit organization. We want to do more work before we applied to become a recovery community organization.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Great, fantastic.
Yep.
So you both are now co-founders with your sister-in-law of Koom Recovery, but from our previous discussions, it seems like you and your husband took totally different lived experiences to get to that point. Can you help us better understand that?
Yeah. Well, my husband and I, we both were on the same streets. We just never met each other. It's I never met him when I was on the street, and when I was in my recovery, I was away from it. When I came back, I never met him, but it's just kind of where how we met. He was in recovery, and then I was seeking recovery, and I met him, and so he took a whole different route because when he was in Teen Challenge, the mother of his child decided to leave him, his son. And she knew that he was in recovery and he was still not done with Teen Challenge. So my approach was, since I'm getting to know you and I, we like each other, I'm going to make this commitment where I'll take care of your son. And while you finish treatment, and so that you won't have that, stress on you.
Where was the mother in this whole thing?
She decided to leave to Germany.
Wow.
Yeah.
She just left the son with you two?
So she had him sign a delegation of parental, I think it's DOPA or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So he signed that, and because he didn't want to lose, or he didn't want his son to go to Germany. So she said, I'll leave him to you, but you got to sign this paperwork. And when I come back, I'm going to come take him. And, he didn't want to miss his chance or to have his son live so far. So I decided to take that, role.
And you, how long have you known him how long have you known him when you were sober?
Oh, well, I mean, I've sober. So when I met him, it was I think we were together for 2 months. And the first month, I was struggling to get into my recovery. And then the second month, because I removed myself away from these individuals. And he allowed me to stay with his brother allowed me to stay there to, just get better. And then when the baby come along, we both lived with his brother while he was finishing treatment.
So you only knew Yang for 2 months, and then you take on the responsibility of being a stepmother.
Yes.
That's huge.
And then I removed myself from that world of, the streets, and I didn't really have anywhere sober and safe to go. So I was grateful for the opportunity to get away from that environment, and then along came his son, and that was what kept me sober.
So it helped both of you.
Yep, it
helped all three of you.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so then how long did that go on in where you're all living together with his brother?
Oh, it was just a few months. He graduated Teen Challenge, I think November, or I think it's August or November, around that time. I can't remember. It was towards the end of the year.
Yes.
And so towards the end of the year, he graduated, and that's kind of where he started working, and it just wasn't fulfilled. Yeah. So towards the end of the year, we started talking, and he decided for the new year he's going to start going to school, and he did. He got into Northwestern, which is a school that's faith based, and he was he's really he taught me to find Christ too, because I honestly, when I met him and the way he was, the way he portrayed himself, I was like, whoa, teach me how to get what you have. And he said, I have God. Yeah. So I started to, follow his lead and try to find out who his God was. Yeah. So
great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and we talked a lot in the last few weeks, and you have a interesting background, a lot of struggles, a lot of physical and other type of issues, and it seems like you found a partner, a true partner. Can you help me understand better a little bit more about your path, about how you got to that point, and then how that influenced you so that you were open to this partnership?
Yeah, so prior to being married to Yang, I had two failed marriage. The first marriage that failed was forced marriage in my culture.
Right.
And I
So
was
like
16.
arranged marriage in India.
Well, it's actually like a force. Like I didn't want to, and I
right.
had to.
Oh, literally forced.
Literally forced.
Wow.
And so before, like back then, for my generation, cultural like forced marriage was normal. And I was 16 in high school. So because I met this boy in high school for like a week, and we decided to skip school and then just hung out, and my mom found out, and I got home. My stepdad threatened to call the police, and this boy I met at school for like a week, he just turned 18. So if he called the police, he would get in trouble. So when they told me like, hey, they stopped him and they said, hey, if you don't take my daughter and marry her, we're gonna call the cops.
Oh my gosh.
So he was like, let me call my parents. And so I guess my parents, my mom and my stepdad, they charged him like $6,000 because of the culture violation,
right,
and the dowry together.
So just skipping school together, and because he was an legal adult, then they could leverage that for contributing to the delinquency of a minor and a whole litany of other legal issues.
Well, and my mom thinks that we don't know what you guys did.
Right.
What if you went did something different?
Right.
So that's kind of like a shame, bringing shame to the family.
Shame to the family, even if they have no idea what happened.
Yep, even if they had no idea what happened, because you were with another boy.
Right.
Yeah. If it was another female, I think it would have been more okay. Just kind of like, alcohol and methamphetamine, not differentiate, like just having that different.
Okay, if it's alcohol and meth, if it's a woman, but if it's a man, it's a whole different issue.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that,
Wow.
So long story short, that was a failed marriage.
Right.
Being married at a young age with traditional cultural values, just knowing that Hmong men hasn't really been, they haven't really learned. It's even back in the old days, the men holds the power, and the women, they have to listen. So they were pretty much like oppressed.
I don't think that goes well with you.
Oh, no,
I got
not,
the impression that didn't work out too good.
Well, because I was born here, so I didn't stick to the cultural, traditional customs. And even though like I said, I had like a loud voice, and I always get yelled at by my mom to soften my voice.
Sure, you're not from New York or Boston?
No. Yeah. And the culture clash. I was born here, and my parents, they try to put this traditional value on me when I go to school, and I'm with other other diversities, and I try to tell my mom like, hey, this is not how it is, but my mom just like, oh, this is what us Hmong people do. So, and then, cut back to the chase where I, after my marriage, being young, I got divorced at 18, because, it's normal for like the Hmong men to take control and beat up the wife and abuse the wife. It was seen normal. And
you had that experience?
Yep, with my first ex-husband.
So sorry to hear that.
And the mother-in-law, they stopped, but then we were always told not to involve the police, because police cannot get into our affairs. There's the 18 clan that can help us, find the solution, because the 18 clan serves as like, the government, or, it's kind of like that. So if the family can't figure out the problem within, they go to the 18 clans. So we just never report this to the police.
Right.
And, I just got tired of it. I was in fear, living in fear instead of love.
Yes.
So when I turned 18, I was like, I'm old enough. I'm leaving. Like, I don't care what anyone says. I'm leaving because I'm an adult now. So I left the marriage.
Yes.
And then that's when my use became really bad, because my husband then, well, I was already using methamphetamine because because my husband, he was, an ex-gang member, and he does that for a living, using and selling.
Right.
And that's why there's a lot of abuse and fighting. Right. And so, I was already hooked, and he, I never thought about going to recovery. I would never even knew that there was recovery.
Really?
Yeah, I just know that there's hospital for crazy people. I didn't know that there was treatment for, drug and alcohol use.
Right.
Because we weren't never taught those things. But if you're crazy and you're going crazy with mental illness, there's a depression doctor that you can talk to. Right. And that's kind of what my parents told us. And at school, we have a social worker that we can talk to, like a school counselor. Mm-hmm. But then we don't tell them our problems either. Well, because they're not Hmong. Bother, right? They're not Hmong, so they won't understand. Right. So yeah. And that's when my use got really bad. And I went back to live with my mom. My stepdad, we never liked each other. Right. So I have to go and live on the street because my mom married this guy, and if it has to be me or my stepdad. Right. So, being the adult, I'm like, I'm not going to ruin your life, Mom. It's okay. Right. I'll just go. Okay. And, fast forward to when I was 23. Yes. I went from the street 18 all the way up to 23.
On the street, using and doing everything you had to do to get your drugs.
And then when I was 23, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh, boy.
And then I was staying with my baby's father then. And I still didn't quit using. I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant. I didn't stop. And I couldn't. It was hard. And I already have, I was already in trouble with the law. Like I was running from a warrant. And, luckily, I think by the grace of God, I went to the casino one day and they just decided to card me and I didn't have an ID.
Oh boy.
So the police came in and, they ran a background check on me and I had a warrant.
They found the warrant.
They took me in, and that's when my journey to recovery started.
Started in jail.
Yeah, because I was sober in there, and they had to transport me to Scott County. So once I was in Scott County, I waited, it was almost a month to 2 months. I was able to go to court, and, the judge knew that I never had prenatal care, and she knew that I was pregnant. So she said, I was going to sentence you to prison because you violate so much. Like, you don't even care about, you came here how many times and you never even followed probation. We release you and you go straight to whatever you're doing because it shows that you never called a probation officer. Right. And I never did.
Wow.
I never took it seriously when I got released every time I got arrested.
A little bit different these days, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think that really, it really changed the way I saw things because jail sobered me up. And she gave me a chance to get assessment within 72 hours. And I did all that. And that time, what kept me motivated to do that was my son. I felt him in my stomach. I was about 5 months or 3 to 5 months. Right. I think I was 3 months that time. And then when I went into treatment, I finished the Lodging Plus at Fairview. That's when I found out I was 5 months. And I went, and that was 30-day program. It wasn't enough. I knew I had more problems. So I asked them to, put me in a longer treatment program.
Yeah, that's pretty brave of you.
Yeah.
30 days is not long enough.
It's not long enough. But I did learn a lot of things from treatment. So
what are some of the key things and 1 or 2 key things you learned in treatment?
Well, the things that I learned in treatment was that coping skills and, how to the cognitive thinking thoughts, and how to just express how you feel, talk about your emotions, on your highs and lows, and how to set goals and structure yourself to a daily schedule. I never had a structured schedule. So that helped me a lot. And, this is why I felt like, the Hmong community needs this. This is why I want Koom Recovery to help Hmong people get into treatment so they can benefit from these skills.
Because you were going through the traditional treatment, which was, secular, not just religiously, but in culture. And what did you feel was lacking that you needed I know the Hmong community, but specifically, what are some of the feelings and thoughts you had there?
Well, when I was in my heavy use around I wasn't around my family, but there were times where I was like, this is enough. Like, I'm so tired of the streets. I go back to my family and, okay, I'm going to become a good girl again. But there was no support. There was
Right.
no resource. My mom, she was very uneducated. She didn't have the knowledge of how she can help me. So she was just like, you found this problem, so you figure it out. But it's just the way you think. You don't need it. You just got to change your thinking. But they don't realize the cravings. They don't
Right.
realize that, your mind was already so altered to always using. And when you are going through withdrawals and you are having cravings, those are what get me to go run back and use it. And my mom don't have that knowledge. She just said, stay home, don't think about it, don't use.
So
Yeah. So the
that didn't work,
approach,
did it?
it did not work. The approach of trying to stop using didn't work, because you can't just stay home
Right.
and sleep and then it's gonna,
Right.
eventually you're gonna get better. You're not, because you're not learning anything to
Right.
overcome it. So
your recovery,
Mm-hmm.
it worked for like 10 years.
Mm.
But one of the major things that you learned from it was coping skills. Or is there another skill set that you learned?
Another skill set that I learned was, how to, for treatment. Well, they taught me a lot of things. They
Right.
taught me how to, just therapy. Going to
Right.
therapy is helpful. Talking about your problems. One thing that really hit me was people sharing their experience. So we have, those AA and NA meetings, but it was more effective when an alumni come into the treatment
Right.
and talk about their recovery and how they've overcome it and what they succeeded in life.
Yes.
And that really touched me. And I said, hey, maybe one day I could be like her. So I had that in me and say, maybe one day I could be like her and my son would be clapping for me.
Yeah.
So I was alone throughout my pregnancy. My baby's father wasn't there. He was under the impression that he wasn't my son wasn't his. So I didn't get any help except
boy.
for the woman in treatment, and my mom comes here and there. So even when I was in treatment, they didn't really come see me. It was kind of sad because I see other people and their parents come every weekend or every time there's visiting time, dropping off things, and I didn't have that.
How did you deal with that? I mean, it must have been hugely disappointing.
Yeah, it was. I just tried to, think, oh, my parents are, like, my mom's busy. Because
Right.
I learned those skills to change the way I think so I don't stress and, so I don't overthink stuff and become depressed. And so it helped me to just think they're busy, putting positive things into that negative thinking. So I kept feeding myself with affirmations and just things that will help keep me sane.
It sounds like some good advice for just regular life.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I still do that nowadays.
Really?
So yeah, affirmations. So
A lot of the things that you learned during your recovery and also learned what was missing seemed to be kind of what you stood on to eventually what became Koom with your co-founders.
yes. Oh, and the biggest thing was learning how to build healthy relationships. In my youth, I didn't know how to find the right person for the
Right.
healthy relationship. So I was having very, unhealthy, toxic relationships. One thing good about treatment is they help you identify your worth,
Right.
for you to self-love, and how to recognize a healthy relationship.
Good.
So I think with that, I met my, Hispanic husband, and he was very different because he wasn't like Hmong guys. He wasn't abusive, and so I thought, hey, this is a healthy
If he
relationship.
doesn't beat me, that's got to be good, right?
That's what I thought, and he was very helpful. But the only issue was the green card.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's sad because I wasn't a citizen and he wasn't, but I didn't know that he had another spouse,
Oh boy.
and so we got married, on paper.
Another spouse in the U.S. or
He has another spouse that's in the U.S., but she doesn't have a green card,
okay.
so they both probably came here together.
Yeah.
And I think when I started feeling, like when I found out about it, because we had, I found it on his phone, his text message.
Right.
So it was just upsetting. And I just decided to stop the whole petition because he was approved, for the petition to get him to stay here. And I just stopped everything because I was just like, this is redundant. Like, you're using me. And you're really good at pretending and using me. I just didn't know it. So I had to divorce him. And that really shut me, like, it really brought my, confidence down. I just started to kind of, that's when my drinking became so heavy.
So that's when you relapsed.
Yeah. And
there was no community there, no support out.
Well, this is the support I got. I go vent to my girlfriends and they said, here, let's just go to the bar. Let's go drink.
Well, that's not helpful.
So that's kind of what happened. It was just like, let's just go, let me show you a new life. Let's just go drink. And, just because I was in a vulnerable stage at that time, I was just like, you know what, let's just do it. And then all of a sudden, one drink turned into many nights of drinking. I mean, I still managed to go to work, but, I was very, hungover. And that led me back to my youth because I was working so hard, but then I need to work all those hours to pay for my house that I bought. So I had to find something in replacement to help me stay up, which I knew where to go.
It seems like with your story, your experience, that you have a whole bunch of tragedy happening, but a nugget happens.
Yeah.
You had a child that stopped you from using. You had support. You're out there, and somehow you bought a house. I mean, that's that's unusual. Usually, when people are sliding, there's no golden nuggets there.
Yeah, I mean, with my 10 years of sobriety, I was able to buy a house and a car, and under my own name. But then, with my reuse, I lost all of that.
Oh.
Yeah, so I lost all of that because I went to like a I don't care no more stage. The only support I had was, hey, let's just go drink. And then that just it wasn't good. But like I told Yang, like my husband, one thing I learned from my reuse is that had I stayed in my recovery community, I would have had support to help me through this. But because I left the recovery community thinking that, oh, okay, I'm sober now.
Yeah.
I have a job and a car. And
I'm good.
And I kind of forgot where I came from.
Right.
Because if we had that Hmong recovery community, I believe that I would have had good support that wouldn't say, let's just go drink. And because we don't have that, and I haven't got back into the recovery community for a while, it was like, I just felt ashamed to go and say, hey, I've been away from you guys, but I need help. Like, I was just kind of ashamed.
And that's part of the cultural heritage you have of shame and stigma and shunned.
And I thought that, my recovery community, the people that I graduate at treatment with, I just thought, they're not Hmong. They don't understand me.
Yeah.
So there might be like,
they're not human.
Right. So then I felt like I shouldn't ask them. And so I just kind of fell back. But, now that I'm in recovery and we're doing all of this, I don't want people or individuals that are struggling to follow my steps, where at least we have a recovery hub they can come to when they are going through issues. And Hmong people, like, we do deal with a lot of stuff that are hidden under the rug. We don't talk about it openly. And we never knew how to deal with our emotions. And, I learned that in treatment. And for like time, like now that I'm doing a lot of studying and I'm really trying to look into my community with from a person who traveled, who came here from Thailand from migrating. I really try to look into that. And I came to a conclusion that Hmong people were survivalists. They never really had a chance to stop and, cope with the war, with the migration to Thailand and coming here to the United States. They never had a chance to cope, to stop and say, let me process this. I just saw a family member pass away or got killed by, in the war. They never got a chance to stop and cope and just bury that person or grieve. They just kept running for their life to survive. And then coming to America, not speaking the language, it was a whole foreign country. they have to, it's like a culture shock. How did they deal with it? They just try to survive.
They just suppressed anything.
Suppress everything. So how do you think our parents deal with it, with us when we are going through stuff? They just expect us to suppress it and move on.
Yeah.
And I used to be mad at my parents for not understanding me, but now being in Koom Recovery and wanting to really find answers, because when I have a question, I'm going to find answers. So I started to, did my own research, do surveys, and came to a conclusion that Hmong people are survivalists. Yeah. That's what we are. And so with Koom Recovery, we want to make a difference. If somebody don't step up, the next generation is going to be impacted with the same thing. It will become a generational trauma, integrational trauma, you know? So I want this to be, I don't want my kids to grow up into a future where Hmong people are still struggling with the same thing. So, just coming up with Koom Recovery, it's going to be, it's going to be new for the Hmong people. In Minnesota, you never heard of a Hmong, recovery hub or recovery community. So, with seeing the outcome so far since November of last year to now, and I think we are doing a great job. Yeah. And I'm happy to see, the people coming out and speaking. And it was just like, I thought we weren't going to have this much of a good outcome. And honestly, before we start this, I asked, someone in my family who knew how to run nonprofit. I mean, I really don't want to say nothing bad about them because they are good. She's an elder. She's very good. But she told me that if you want to do a nonprofit for substance use, you might as well just go open like a home health care for profit, because that's not going to work in the Hmong community. And
I think that was a challenge.
That was a challenge.
I pick up on
That was, and I told Yang, I said, you know what? Let's make this happen. Yeah. It's when someone said it's not possible, no one tried it. So let's make it possible. And I wasn't trying to prove to her that I can do it, but I wanted her to know that, hey, the possible, like the impossible that you thought is possible. But it's just a lot of challenge and work. And I'm not afraid to go and try to make the elders understand. I can't make them understand, but maybe I can enhance the way that they think of, things, because they need to modernize the way that they modernize the treatment of, how they deal with, like mental illness or just any disorder. And
I think one of the times we were talking that your wedding and your town hall, that you had an elder that, why don't you tell the story about how that was connected?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I fell off with my Hispanic husband, I met Yang. When I met Yang, we decided to get married, because we both have a lot of things in common. And, he said, because I'm very big-hearted and I love his son. And so when we decided to get married, we decided that we're not going to do it traditional. We're not going to do where the Hmong people collect a dowry from the, the bride's family collect a dowry. We're not going to do that. We're just going to do it the way that we want to do it.
Right.
Because a marriage shouldn't be what the parents want. It should be what the bride and the groom want. So we decided that we're just going to save our money and do our wedding and invite family members to come join so they know that we're getting married. And so we went out to look for a park and, just a place. And then once we got that all figured out, he called my mom. And then my mom said, hey, it's okay. You marry my daughter. I'm not going to take a dowry. My dad passed away, so he can't go to my dad. But my mom said she's not going to collect a dowry. So that was a go. And then we went to my uncle.
That's a little bit different than other cultures. The dowry usually is the bride provides the dowry. Male provides the dowry?
Yep.
Okay.
That's majority. Mainly it's because the male provide the dowry as a commitment and respect to the bride's family.
Right.
And he's buying the bride off. And so the bride is no longer have any relation with her family.
Oh.
Her only family is her husband's family.
So they're cut off from that?
Cut off.
Wow.
That's why when the bride gets a divorce, it's a shame. They can't really go back to their family.
Oh.
They will ruin their family's name. Like, oh, my daughter came back she's a divorcee now. So there's a very huge stigmatized about that. So a lot of women tend to stay in their marriage. They don't divorce. And that's where some abuse just become violent. And there's a lot of, reported where Hmong women, pass away because their husband abused them. And it's because she tried to leave the marriage. But because of the whole shame and family dishonor, she just stays in her marriage.
There just seems to be layers and layers of silence and shame and stigma.
There is. So in my case, my mom was, she was very open. She had, she became a Christian. So she knew dowry is not something that she should be doing. And, I'm glad she have, God in her life. So, so we went to my uncle because he stands as my father. And then he was like, oh, I want to meet your brothers, your family, because Yang's parents, they both passed away during COVID. So then my uncle, they want to meet his brothers who represent the Moor clan. And his brother is a part of the 18 Clan Council. He's one of the leaders that, leads the Moor family. So they want to meet him. But then Yang said, we're just inviting them to come to the wedding. And we don't know if we can get his brother because his brother lives all the way in California. And I guess it became like we need to set up a time. You guys have to come and talk. But when we went there to talk, they were trying to do the traditional way of the bride, the groom having to bow, taking drinks of liquor.
Oh boy.
And Yang said, hey, I'm in recovery and I'm going to school for pastor, I'm trying to become a pastor. I can't do this. And my uncles, they're like, oh, so you can't even bow. You can't even, show the sign of respect. This is what we do in our traditions. He said, I respect the traditions. It's just not something that I can do. And I respect what you guys believe in, but can you guys respect what I believe in? Right. And my recovery is important to me, so I'm not going to drink. And after that conversation, we came home and, when the wedding happened, no one came.
Well, no one from your side, right?
No one from my relative, like my brother, sister, they came. My mom came from California and my stepdad, but my uncles and all my first cousins on that side of my dad's family, they didn't show up. But it's probably because we did say our wedding is no alcohol, no alcohol involvement. Anyone that comes cannot drink. We want this to be a sober wedding. And because, of the whole, conversation with my uncles and them, and, the wedding is usually full of alcohol. It's usually, that's where you celebrate with alcohol, you do toast with alcohol, you show elders respect with alcohol, but not at our wedding. We are not doing that. And, we didn't have any, my side of the family, the Yang side didn't come. I was disappointed because when my cousin got married, all of them went there. Everyone joined it. But then no one showed up. But it's okay because we're leading a different life away from alcoholism. Right. So that was another challenge for us. Hey, let's make this where we can identify the same thing of alcohol and methamphetamine use. Right. We can put that out there so that they know that it's the same. And, maybe we need to make that difference. And what happened at the town hall when we actually had the town hall?
Now, if I remember correctly, the town hall was the event that you decided, the first step that you and your partners decided was going to be the way to start breaking the silence.
Yes. And when we had I went all over town with flyers and I talked to a lot of people and invite a lot of people. And to my surprise, my uncle showed up with his kids. And and I was very happy that he came. And, I was not expecting that. And
that was unexpected.
Yeah, so he
didn't come to my wedding, but he comes to a town hall.
Yeah, so after the town hall, he came up to me and he said, like they call me Posia. So
Okay.
he's a Posia. And
What does that mean?
that means like like because my real name is Sia. So Posia is just like a term of saying like like daughter Sia.
Okay.
But then it's just kind of like a slang term, or I'm not sure how they differentiate what that is, but it's just what the elders will call
Right.
me. And he said, good job, congratulations, and
Wow.
I'm very proud of you. And I hope one day everyone will hear you out and be educated by you, and drinking will become less. And I'm really proud of you.
Wow.
And
that's very meaningful on a
it was.
personal level, I would think.
Yeah, and to know that every event that they do, there's always drinking. But to hear that from him, maybe he does recognize this problem. No one it's just because no one say anything about it.
And he's an elder. Has he started to influence the other elders that maybe this is something we should look at?
Well, in the community, I think it's very hard to influence the elders because when you go and you try to put in your 2 cents about...
I meant him as an elder. Is he influencing the other
he
elders?
has influence of his the elders in our Yang side of the family, because we have a lot, like a Hmong family is pretty extended. We have a huge family.
Right.
So let's see, my family tree is probably like the whole chalkboard. Yeah. So he influences all the Yang like elders in the family. And there are more, but just the immediate Yang elders. So, but to influence the whole, like all the elders within the 18 clan, is hard.
Well, that's next.
Yeah.
But you've accomplished your goal.
Yeah. So I made it where someone at least recognized.
Yes.
Which is my uncle, and that was a good. It was fulfilling for me, and I told Yang, my uncle came up to me and he said congratulations, and he said good things, and maybe he wasn't so bad after all. But it's and I'm glad he came with his son who was married and his grandkids.
Wow.
And I think it was a big thing for him to have his grandkids see this.
Yes.
So and that was the only uncle that came. I have a lot of uncles.
Yeah. But it seems like you've not only influenced your community, you're having an impact on somebody that has power.
Yes.
Has power to make change. And the other elders in your clan and the other clans must have heard that he brought his kid and his grandkids and what that means to everybody.
And at the town hall, there was a 18 clan member that showed up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But then I think he left early. He left like towards the end early. But
what do you mean 18 clan member?
So he's one of the representatives from the 18 clan. So he was there for...
So like a Supreme Council?
Yeah. So
sort of?
Yeah, I think he just he's part of that governance council, and he showed up to kind of see what the town hall is about. And, just him being there is, so he could relay back the message to the 18 councils. I think that was, to me, that was good enough.
That's a
start.
That's a long term.
Yeah. It's a start.
That is great. You don't get anywhere you don't start.
Yeah. And like I said, we need this recovery hub so we can go educate and do workshops and have these support groups so that, eventually in the long run, we will be able to heal the Hmong community. And, have next generation start this trend where we can all heal and stop this hush hush and, help, just help each other grow.
Yeah, that's great.
So
we've got a very clear picture of your experience and how you've influenced the Hmong community, and that's your peers can take advice from that. But what would be some thoughts you would have for people that are not your direct peers, but other leaders in the recovery provider space that are doing other work to help people heal? What do you think they could learn from what you learned?
So to providers that are providing for Hmong individuals?
Outside of the Hmong community. Just other providers that from counselors to treatment centers.
Like counselors from a different diverse okay.
Yeah.
So so Hmong people are very, they're more like survivalists. So they don't really believe in going to see a therapist or a counselor. unless, it gets very bad. And, like my mom, she never went to like a therapist, a psychiatrist until until she decided that, her last divorce, she decided, I don't want to live anymore. And then that's when they took her in. And that's when she found out she had depression, anxiety, and a lot of things. And she never knew any of this. And, my mom's doing a lot better with her mental health because she's on medication. It benefit her a lot. And it takes those situations and word of mouth for others to start seeking help that way. And my mom was able to share that. And if that was effective, just think about how we as recovery, people in recovery are making an impact for the Hmong community, because it starts with word of mouth. And if somebody never went through it, then, they won't know unless somebody went through it of the same, culture and background. Then they will probably listen and say, oh, if that worked for you, that might work for me.
Yeah. So awareness and education
Yes.
and support and whatever in other areas of the recovery would help also.
So I think providers, they will just have to be more cautious with how they explain things to someone who don't really speak the language or have a hard time understanding.
Right.
Because the first thing they're going to go into was if the provider said, oh, you have like, depression, or you need to go to like a therapist, like a psychiatrist, probably diagnose him with medications. The first thing they're going to go and say, what? Why are you giving me medication? I'm not crazy. So they will stop going to see that psychiatrist, even though the medication will benefit them. So it's just, because we lack that education in our culture, when we go see a provider and first thing they say, take this medication, it will help you. First thing we go into is, you guys think I'm crazy? Like, I'm not crazy.
They need to be told, they need to become aware of their own condition and to be educated on how they might be able to solve that. And that applies to change in any community.
And if they have like a translator or just someone that can translate those things to them, like, this is the symptoms of what you have. This is what the medication is. And these are the side effects. This is what it helps with. And just talk about it in a way, like a very compassionate way. Hmong people tend to grasp those knowledge slowly.
Not just Hmong people, I think everyone would benefit from that steps.
Yeah.
Great.
But because in our Hmong culture, our language for mental health, we don't have a language for mental health. We call like a therapist depression doctor.
Oh, okay.
Like Dr. Xia, which that is the word for depression. And like hardship, but it's to us more Americanized Hmong. We see that language Xia as in, just hardship. But to Hmong, they see that as like the new depression word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. I appreciate that. I learned a lot about your culture. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you, everybody, for watching as we work on building recovery one pillar and one theme at a time.